So anyway, tonight we're going to talk about Google's Gemini, which we just had a great introduction on, so it needs probably no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. So here's what we're going to talk about tonight. So we'll start with what is Google Gemini? Not that we don't know, but just to make sure that somebody watching this in the future or whatever, if they don't know, we'll have that information. We'll talk about performance. And then we'll do some demos. And I have my demos. There are a few of them that I did in playing around. But if you have other things you want to try, let's play around. Let's see if we can break this thing. And we'll do that. And as usual, our usual rules apply. This whole thing is interactive. If I do something and you say that's that's not right, just tell me. Or if you want to try something else and just tell me and we'll do that. Or if you want to share your screen, however it is. This is kind of a group project here. Any questions about that?
Sounds good.
Okay, let's move on. My first slide. So from an architectural perspective, Gemini is kind of unique in that it's multimodal. I think that's the biggest thing. Today we have text and images we can play around with, but it is also coded to do sound, video, and code itself. And also uniquely, it's cross-modal attention. So something in the text can reference some feature in the image, which can reference some feature in sound, which can, maybe reference some feature in code, I guess. So it's this cross-modality sort of thing. So it's a kind of a crazy mixed up attention model they have in there going on in there. I have no doubt that is a real pain to debug and get working. So that is probably why they're only right now throwing text and image type support. But it is coming. I do know some people at Google and have talked to them, and they are working on it. DeepMind has a lot of people focused, their team focused on it, and things like that.
Hey, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
So my understanding is ChatGPT 4 has some sort of multimedia capability, right?
Yeah, it has support for pulling in images, and it supposedly has multimodal with text and image.
Okay. And how does that contrast with what we're talking about here then, or does it?
Well, right here, if you see here where my cursor is,
Yeah.
we got text and image today, but there's also support in there, but that hasn't been turned on for audio, sound, and video and code.
Okay.
So in the full out model, it will support all 5 of these in kind of this cross-modal attention, and I don't know exactly how that's going to work.
And I'm wondering if that's the part that's different than GPT-4.
It definitely is. It definitely is. Well, I'll be running. Well, then GPT 3.5, because GPT 3.5 is a pure text model, right?
Right.
4 does have some image support, but I think it's different in the way they handle images.
Okay.
Images are in 4 feel more like an add-on layered on top, if you will, versus baked right in, if you will, into the the attention model. Everything's not quite as integrated.
Is your intuition that you're saying it's kind of added on? Is that at the model level or the user interface level that it's added on?
Yeah, that's the $100,000 question. Okay. I don't know. I've heard that it has, it does. There's some attention mechanism to deal with it. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that we think it's baked into the attention. But I've heard the other way too, that it's just sort of, as you said, it's just sort of the UI, doing it. Right. We'll play around with it in Gemini, and it's pretty much the same thing.
Okay. Jerry, if I may add a bit of color.
Yes, sir.
See, when this GPT 3.5 and GPT-3, etc., were coming out, it antedates papers like, if you look at the time that Clip came out and then Blip and Blip 2 came out, and with the Blip and Blip 2, the concept of cross attention or image grounded text and so on and so forth. They were just emerging. And so today, the question is, when Google claims that they are doing truly cross-modal attention, I mean, at least in the research papers that we have seen so far, or at least the ones that I have read, maybe I've missed something. I haven't seen, other than things like, for example, segment anything or, image bind and things like that. I haven't really seen any new work or any fundamental paper talking about cross-modal attention that is inherently different to what has been happening in research papers for a few years. Now, if you really go from that, Google, to substantiate it, it needs to say something. This Gemini paper is rather sparse in technical details. That is the crux of the claim they're making. They're truly cross-modal attention. Now, in what possible way, we don't know. And if you look at the, for example, architectures like Blip and so forth, Blip 2, at the end of it, all of those attentions, you feed it into a decoder, autoregressive decoder. And so, which my guess is what ChatGPT Vision is doing, and going along with some maybe more sophisticated variant of such ideas, or evolved variants of such ideas. The question is, if you say that is not the right way and there is a radically different way, where is it?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I think there's more to be said, but yeah, we should really hold them to giving us the details, shall we say, whatever you want to say. Opening, yeah, that's a good point. And getting a little bit more on that cross tension, let me go down here, this key components thing. This is what they say the key components are. They have this multimodal encoder that extracts the important features from a particular modality. And then they have this cross attention network that learns the relationship and dependencies between different representations. And I have this little example here about hearing the dog in this context is likely associated with dogs in the picture. But if we're talking about a hot dog, maybe it's something different. I don't know. And then they have a multimodal decoders too, and I'm not quite sure how those put together. So there's a lot of, we don't know what's going on yet. We haven't seen the good technical papers. I referenced some of in this presentation, some of what we do have, but most of what we have is more, I don't want to call it fluff, but I would call it more, hey, see what we can do type thing versus here's the deep technical details of how we're doing that right now. Anyway, so I guess they're just trying to build excitement around the product. Okay, they do have a supposedly sequence understanding. When they have images, that change between, if you think of a video sequence, frame 1 and frame 2, there's things that move, or frame 1 even in like frame 10 down the road. They supposedly have mechanisms for handling that and tracking that. And so that they can say, oh, that something is happening fast or something is happening slow. Don't know exactly how all that works. So I kind of agree with the comments earlier that we don't have a lot of information about how this stuff was put together. And I don't want to guess too much about it because undoubtedly we'll be wrong. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide then. Current status, Ultra, which there are three sizes. Ultra, which is the really big one, the very big model. Pro, which is kind of the intermediate one, which is what we have now. And then Nano, which I have a slide on, which is the one that they're going to target to their portable devices. And it supports some of the things we've talked about in this group, such as small model quantization, 4-bit quantization. I would say compared to ChatGPT, Ultra seems to perform, and I'm interested to get you guys' take on this. Close to GPT-4. I don't know if it's fully there or what. Any thoughts on that?
We don't have access to Ultra. I don't know if you guys have.
I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. Pro, in my opinion, performs better than 3.5 and maybe it's to GPT-4, some of the time. Would you guys agree with that statement?
Broadly, I would agree, not always, but it
Oh,
does seem
yeah,
to, on the average, do better than that.
yeah, yeah. Better than GPT 3.5?
Yes.
Yes, yes. David, do you have any thoughts on that since you're a pretty heavy user too?
Well, the thing is with the multimodal that Pro uses, it
Mhm,
outperforms GPT 3.5 because sometimes you want to give context of an image,
mhm.
but don't use GPT-4 vision because it's too expensive or too slow. But the Pro version that is like GPT 3.5 in speed
Yeah,
can handle and understand this image very well. So that's an add-on that have the Pro version of that is multimodal, besides GPT 3.5 that is not multimodal.
yeah. Okay. I just want to take a look at that there. Um, all right. Well, that's kind of my feeling too. It's kind of there, kind of not. I don't think there's ever going to be a one-for-one equivalency, right? They're two different products. They just doesn't happen. Nano is kind of an interesting one, and I think I have a slide in here somewhere about Nano. Uh, I happen to, from a machine learning, I really am excited about small device machine learning. So that was just my bias that I put a slide in here. Since I'm doing the presentation, I can do that. Okay, any questions on this, the general stuff here?
Jerry, sorry,
Mhm,
I would like to, yeah, agree with you. See, when you look at efforts like TinyGrad,
mhm,
and who's like, see, first there was TensorFlow JS
mhm,
and bringing it to mobile devices, but the
mhm,
movement is away, seems to be away from TensorFlow. Most new models are in
mhm.
PyTorch. Then there is
Yeah.
TinyGrad, which is trying to bring it to edge devices. So from that perspective, it would be nice to compare what that initiative with what Nano can do.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I'm itching to get my hands on it.
Yeah.
I have a slide in here on that, and we'll get to that in a moment. So I don't want to get too far ahead of us. All right, I'm going to move on. Okay. Oh, in fact, here it is. So this is personal bias. I will tell you that right now. And I'm wondering if Nano is perhaps the most interesting of these, at least for people that like to work in the small spaces. It's very small, actually. Nano 1 is apparently 1.8 billion parameters, and Nano 2, which is the big one, is 3.25. It's kind of hard to imagine that we consider a model with almost 3 gigabits bytes as being small, but it is. It's also been designed to work on small devices that's quantized. So they've flipped the integers from 16-bit or 32-bit down to 4-bit, so it fits on these small devices. Um, the only thing I think it runs on today, it runs without connectivity, so that's good. Because if you want to put this in some situation where you don't have connectivity, you can still have, whatever the feature you've coded in, have that run. Um, the only device I'm aware of that it runs on today is the new Pixel 8 phone, which has a not hugely powerful GPU, a decent GPU, but not a hugely powerful one. So that's good. It apparently runs fairly efficiently from the people I've talked to that have internally played with it a little bit. And what we can do is we can add, some sort of AI to our apps. And because it's on a phone, we can either not or have internet connectivity. So we can get to the point where we can put things we're trying to do for our business and data that we may need to make that app run onto a smaller device and not have to worry with that, coming across the internet or that data being shared out to the internet, which is, I think, security is going to become a real issue with as we go forward with our various models and things like that, even more so than it is with basic operations. Because at some point, when you have something that can learn all about your company and just kind of rip through all your data and then make it available to everybody, that's probably not what you want to have happen. You want to have that very secure. So we have to see how that is. I haven't. Well, go ahead.
I wonder if
Mhm.
they make this Nano available on mobile devices, it wouldn't means that everyone can reverse engineer or download this model out of the device with some tricks like root the Android, and
You know, that's
wouldn't
a
Nano be free like an
uh, that's an interesting question. I wonder if they will charge for Nano. Honestly, they may just give it away as just to complete the suite. That's it. But yeah, that's Google does have. Google has the resources to do that and not impact their bottom line too dramatically. So I would not be surprised if that becomes like a free sort of thing. Anyway.
Yeah, likewise, I have a question with Nano
Mhm.
actually. The first thing that occurred to me is it going to be loaded, like for example, TensorJS, would it be loaded like that using a JavaScript, or would it come as pre-compiled, like a WebAssembly and written in a compiled language like Rust or something?
Yeah, I would assume it would be compiled if for nothing else, just for performance rationale.
One would
Um,
imagine, yes.
yes, and if it is going to be quantized and stuff to play that game, you've got to be fairly close to the hardware, which
Yes.
speaks again to being compiled. But that's just a guess. I guess we'll have to see. Um, yeah, yeah. Those are good questions, though. Good questions. So the question is, well, why would you do that? What could you do with AI in your device, kind of on the bottom? One of the things I always do, I like is this is one example I always come back on, is if you were to build it into some sort of intelligent camera that you were to just to put out there. I mean, could it, detect a pest or a friendly insect? Is the fruit ripe? Sully's not here, but I know Patrick is, and he works with Sully. So, maybe your next gen camera will have, something like this running in it and be able to tell not only is that a good guy or a bad guy, or is what the person's doing just in general a bad activity, since they supposedly have video support. So that would be interesting.
Jerry, do you know, is Nano, is that going to be multimedia as well?
I do not know, Roger. There is very little information I've seen on it. So I don't want to say, yeah, of course it would be, but I just don't have a good feeling. But if you think about it, if you think about being on a phone, that's a real good place to be support multiple media types, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's like much better than being on a clunky desktop computer, right?
Right.
Or worse yet, in a cloud, some cloud somewhere. Yeah, so it seems like a good use case to have all that capability, but I don't
As long
know. We maybe didn't
as
have
long
this.
as the performance is above some bar. I mean, you get to a level where, it's a toy. It doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we are seeing the phones get faster and faster over time too. So there is that. So. And then this other example, that summarizing phone calls and things like that. That's something else that maybe you could do. Some guy's been yakking your ear off. You were in a meeting. All right, just give me the 4 points of that last half an hour of my life. I will never get back. That's all I want. It would be nice if it could just give you a display of that.
Or how about you take this call?
Yeah, yeah. You just kind of let
Oh,
the phone listen, and I'm gonna go off here and play Candy Crush
that's
or
right.
something like
It's Sam again. Can you take this call? I don't want to be bothered.
that. Yeah. Oh my
Don't make any
gosh.
commitments.
Yeah, exactly. Um, we've all had that, anybody that's run a business or has consulted or anything has had that. Anyway, so this will be interesting to see what we get. All right, let's move on here. In fact, speaking to that, here's something that I just found, oh gosh, 20 minutes before we started here. So this is something where somebody, I think this actually is on a phone, but because it looks very phonish to me. Um, So they were in this meeting, and this thing, was going on, rattle, 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 talk, and same with Chrome, 120 layout, oh my God, let's just, and then in Chrome 121, we're going to do this. Just tell me what the heck is going on. So they have this feature. Summary, Chrome 121 will start. So Google has experimented a probabilistic model that will allow the browser to be more accurate, set down sign. Chrome 121 is later go stable. And I think that's supposed to be 121, and this is a text-to-speech problem type, or speech-to-text type problem. Stable on January. Oh, hey, maybe that's some internal information we weren't supposed to know. Whatever. But you can see the original audio transcript, or the transcript down here, and then the summary derived from the model. So that's a use case for it. And as I said, those meetings were all in, and they go forever. It'd be a nice thing to have. Questions, anybody on that? Oh. Okay, moving right along. Okay, we have some performance benchmarks, but let me set the stage for you here. These are preliminary benchmarks. They are, well, you'll see as we get to there. They're a little bit cooked, in my opinion, and you have to read them very, very closely. They're incomplete, as you would expect for something that just showed up, a week ago or something. They are, and for a new model, they're designed to show that model in the best light. And finally, as we look through them, we should realize that they're unverified. Nobody has independently gone out and said, yeah, I can run this on this version, and I can get these results, and I, match these. These are purely done internally by various teams at Google, nothing from the outside. But anyway, let's see what they look like. We can go through these. One thing I'm going to point out, notice that the winner in dark blue here is Gemini Ultra, the one we don't have access to. Everything. This is always the highest one. So temper your expectations with that. Gemini Pro here is in the next column, GPT-4 and GPT-5. I am not familiar with some of these. I am, like the GSMK math. I'm not sure with MMLU exactly what it is. I know it's a bunch of multi-choice questions, but I don't know how hard or how difficult of a benchmark it is. Does anybody have any background on any of these? Just chime in.
It's just a standard. I mean, it's been, I guess, you always look at this result along with others.
Yeah. But, various models are good at various things. So I always kind of like to, find out what that is. They're using chain of thought, 32-bit version, and then 8 here. And so are the in GPT-4. And you can see the difference here is not much. It's, maybe there's a real difference there at 90 to 87.29. But once again, we don't have our hands on Ultra. So.
Yeah. Jerry, if I may make a comment. See,
sure.
The error bar is significant. Like you have an error bar of 3 to 5%, I would imagine. So to quote numbers that go to 2 decimal places.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know how it makes sense. The other thing is, was it yesterday or day before I heard that people have optimized. I'm not a proponent for GPT-4 OpenAI by any means, but somebody tried out and they sort of optimized the prompt, and then GPT-4 seems to be doing better than it was. Well, we don't know how it can catch up with Gemini because Gemini Ultra is not released, but it seems to be doing better. And so the situation is pretty murky. We do know that good prompting or efficient prompting makes a vast difference. We do not know what was the chain of thought used, and so on and so forth. At this moment, the most irritating fact about this paper on Gemini is that, and from which the screenshot comes, is it is a whole lot of benchmarks and almost no technical details.
Right. I completely agree that there needs to be a paper that says that. Well, for example, we talked about all these multimodal things. There needs to be something that says how they do that. How did they put that in the model? You know? Yeah. Yeah. I think.
Hey, Jerry, I'm joining a little bit late here.
Hey, Silly, how's it going?
Hi. I'll even turn my camera on. Can you see me? Does that work?
Yep.
Maybe. All right. So I think I've been thinking about that question a little bit, both in terms of like the non-released parts of the model, as well as kind of the
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you call it, obscurity of the way in which they've reported the results.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this paper and the model much more from a business strategic standpoint, saying basically, hey, bus, here I am. Don't leave me behind. I'm still relevant. And I, as much as from an academic and intellectual perspective, I think that the lack of clarity, very much is frustrating. I do think it is a kind of a stake in the ground that is sufficiently strong to say you can't rule us out. I don't think it necessarily accomplishes what their maybe kind of tactical goal, which would be to say we're better. But I think it definitely, even in the very limited kind of exposure that we've seen, especially Jerry, I think you and I have seen some of the early stuff that they did that was just trash.
Yeah.
I mean, and trash is like even a kind word. I think Gen Z has a whole bunch of better terms that we could use to describe it. But I think that's really, I hate to kind of undermine the overall academic potential accomplishments, but that's really the perspective that I have on it. Is this is much more about business than it is about academics, I think.
Yeah. I would agree with you, Sally. Of course, lately all the LLM companies have had a little business problem. So, it is, because you're staking out a space in the next potential big thing, shall we say? Well, it is the big thing. Let's be real. You guys, those that don't know me, some of what I do is write courses for various companies and things like that. And every single meeting I've gone to in the last quarter has been, here are our top priorities: AI, machine learning, just the stuff we're talking about tonight. Oh, what about languages and things? Oh, those aren't as important. AI, so it has. Anytime and these are guys that are talking to large Fortune 50 type companies and have contracts with them. So I'm sure they have always previously aligned with what they're hearing from their companies. So I'm sure that's what they're hearing from their customers, these big Fortune 50 companies too. So it's a good time to be where we are, guys. Pat yourselves on the back. Anyway. Okay. Thanks, Sally. That's a good thing. I think the business perspective is, this is, put the flag. Hey, we're not knocking OpenAI off the top of the hill. We're just going to put a flag up there next to them.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. And I was mentioning, Sally, and maybe I'd care to get your perspective on this. I think the one thing that Google has going for it is maybe able to get the cost under because they don't owe NVIDIA money for GPU cycles because they have their own, devices and things like that. And if you look at backroom, cloud operations, that's a fairly significant budgetary line item. Thoughts?
Yeah, if I recall correctly, the dollar amount of NVIDIA purchases was in the like high single digit billions per quarter.
Is this for?
I mean,
you're talking like a Microsoft, OpenAI.
I think it was Microsoft specifically. Yeah. And I mean, it was one of the top 3 cloud providers was in that kind of high single digit billions. It was a number that like it didn't surprise me per se, but it shocks the conscience. That's just a huge freaking number.
Yeah, for accelerators, right?
Yeah. So
not for the whole computer. Yeah.
I don't know their underlying finances well enough to know if that's an advantage. I mean, but in general, Google has definitely used that to their advantage historically.
Yeah. And that's more a business decision than anything else. But But you know, they built their accelerator themselves because they didn't, I think, want to be, you know, in the, oh, we're beholden to NVIDIA and we're kind of limited by what NVIDIA thinks is the right thing to do, you know, for a general audience, that sort of thing. Okay, moving on. So we have the grade school math. This is a standard one. So I'm just going to kind of zip through these in case anybody didn't know. Kind of some of these math programs here. These are fairly simple. Once again, you know, getting back to what we just talked about, the difference, you know, we're good. Everybody's good. You know, here we're down to tenths of a percent. You know, I think what you put in for the seed when you ran the damn thing could probably account for a good fraction of that. Human evals, things like that. That is a, you know, maybe it writes better code on Python coding than any of the OpenAI models. So okay, that's good. Natural to code. Oh, this is Python generation again. Okay. Draw basic math sort of things, about the same. Hellaswega is a valid, if you're not familiar, it's a completion set test. So you know, John and Jill ran up the hill, blah, 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 and therefore, blah, you know, you fill in the blah sort of thing. And it looks like ChatGPT-4 did better than that on them. Machine translation, the Bluey scores, that's it. All right, moving on, I have another slides on these multimodal ones. So ChatGPT 4, as we talked about, has at least for images the capability of handling it. So it gets there. Interesting though, Gemini uses pixel data, and I'm not sure that ChatGPT 4 does use pixel data. So it is potentially looking a little deeper at the images than ChatGPT 4 is. But these were all Ultra again. Once again, same problem. None of us has access to Ultra today. Supposedly, I just saw something that said they're going to have it at the end of January, beginning of February. We'll see. And you can, you know, natural language sort of things. These are scores, OCR, blah, blah, blah. But this is really you know, as Sully mentioned, this is a bit to say, yeah, we're in the game and we're good. And this is probably more information that you'd want to get in front of a CIO rather than a bunch of, you know, hardcore developers and things like that. Probably most like the people here. Yeah, here's one thing they say. Yeah. Oh, I see. So on the Gemini, they're pixel only. I should know better. I wrote this. No assistance from any sort of OCR system. So I think GPT-4 may have been using some sort of OCR attachment built in that's doing some of the heavy lifting, and then saying, okay, that's the letter A, or you know, that's whatever it is, and then it can flip it back to language. Okay. And then these are pure video type things, you know, all sorts of things like that. And you see here they had to go play that game in the video realm. They had to go away from the GPT models because they don't work in that space, and they do, and Gemini does. So you can see it's doing pretty well. I looked several of these up, and these are some of the top on the right-hand column here. These are some of the top leading ones. So they seem to be doing pretty well in that. So that's good. All right, that's it on benchmarks. Let's just complete this here, though. Gemini is using pixel-based recognition, which is cool, versus OCR. Gemini Ultra appears to be on par with GPT-4. I'm sure, you know, the next version of GPT-4 will pass it, the next version of Ultra, but they'll be, you know, they're close competitors. And, you know, my bottom line is that the comparison values are so close, it just really doesn't matter. I mean, you know, when you're talking about tenths of a percent or even 1 or 2% on these benchmark, that's not, you know, it's just not consequential. And then there's a problem with Ultra not being available. And also that set of benchmarks is not extensive. We need additional benchmarking. Okay. Ooh, now we can move on from benchmarking and performance comparison to some other fun things here. All right, you guys heard about the controversy. Do we need to go through that, or has everybody heard about it?
I
The
have.
duck controversy.
Huh?
You're talking about the duck controversy, right?
Yeah.
Did they really fake this?
Here's the deal. Here's essentially what happened. Do you remember they did that rock, paper, scissors one? If anybody remembers, they had a thing where they did, and they have this cool narration. Let me just play it for you, and you'll see it here. And all this is accurate. They did capture footage. Video highlights are favorite things.
All right.
But
Testing
remember,
Gemini.
this is advertising.
Here we go. Tell me what you see.
I see you placing a piece of paper on the table. I see a squiggly line.
Oh, okay. I don't know why we're not getting
What
voice.
about now?
What he says is, I'm drawing something. Oh, now I'm drawing this. What is that?
Contour lines are
And you can
smooth
see
and
here
flowing,
where the
with
model
no
is
sharp angles or
responding.
jagged edges. It looks
Well,
like
we're
a bird
hearing
to
him.
me.
By the way,
Oh,
Jerry,
Look
if you're
at
not.
this.
I'm not. So, okay, if
The
you guys are
bird
hearing
is
him,
swimming
that's
in the
fine.
water. It has a
It's the duck
long
swimming
neck
in
and
the water,
beak.
blah,
It
blah,
is a
blah.
duck.
Yes.
A
Yes.
duck.
Sorry, the sound was overriding you.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
So you have it.
sorry. One thing I haven't seen anybody address is why did they do that? It doesn't make sense.
You know, this gets back, I think, to what Sully was talking about. If you're going to talk to a CIO or somebody who doesn't code this and doesn't do it, it's just to sell the sizzle, if you will. It's marketing. And you've got to, you ever look at a car commercial, especially like on an SUV or something like that, and they show it like up in the Sierras and it like shoots through this big pile of snow and everything like that, right? Well, if you were to get back before they set up that shot, what you would see is that pile of snow was shoveled in there and there's a ramp behind it. So when that Jeep shoots through that snow, it's essentially rolling up a ramp and then flying through the last few inches of that snow so it gets thrown at the camera. So it's very much, I think, like that, which doesn't feel good, but it is marketing. So that's my 2 cents on it.
What was
Anybody
the
else?
controversy? I hadn't heard the controversy. What is the controversy?
The thing is, what you're seeing in here, right? He says, "Oh, what is this?" Blah blah blah. It's not done in real time this way, and so this is not like, this guy's got like a camera strapped to his head and he's drawing this sort of stuff, and it's responding here. In fact, I think it's more like this. So let me show you a picture here of what you see. Or a video clip, probably a picture. They probably just stopped it. And tell me what you see. And he says, I see a person's right hand. So it knew what the right hand was. And its fingers spread apart. Okay, how about this one? Now it's saying a person knocking on a wooden door because it's got a fist, right? And there's wood there. Makes sense. And then it says, I see this one. I see 2 fingers. What's the common symbol for it? It's the common symbol for number 2. But then he says, what do you think I'm doing? It's a game. And he goes, oh, the model figures out, oh, it's a game. So I have to, filter down to what the games were that would have these things in it. You're playing rock, paper, scissors. In the video, they did not show any of this. They just showed the Gemini response.
Gotcha.
And that's where people had the issue. Okay.
Actually, my feeling was that it's not a big deal. I mean, clearly here the marketing team was eager to come out with something that was probably very imminent. The engineering team just didn't close on that topic or didn't sort of get it working in time. So these people, knowing that it's coming, they sort of jumped the gun.
Yeah, but I'm unconvinced if it's even coming, to be real honest. I mean, they played that cool video, right, of the guy drawing the duck and everything then.
I
I'm
take
not
a
convinced
slightly
that that's
more
coming.
innocent view of it, which is that whether it's coming or not, the marketing team was like, here's the coolest way to tell people the story of an
Yes.
AI that can describe an image. And they did it.
Yes.
And I think it's actually kind of coincidental that they got this much criticism, because had you done that, I don't know, 4 months ago, I don't think they would have gotten this criticism, because the paper that Roger and I are going to do in the new year, the XL Turbo, what is it, Roger? That's GAN Turbo XL
Oh, with it. Yeah,
diffusion,
adversarial. Yep.
the adversarial version of the
And
network,
get
which can operate in quasi real time. And that was the first time anyone had ever seen anything operate in quasi real time. And so it set the expectations slightly different than what we'd ever seen before. So I honestly think it's more coincidental. But to go back to your point, Jerry, about the CIO, I hadn't thought about it from the CIO's perspective, but one of the interesting things a lot of people don't realize is that at the level of CIO and boards of directors, where they say, stupid things like, come up with a generative AI strategy for Procter and Gamble, and they do things like that, then if Procter and Gamble's already working with Google, all Google needs to do is ensure that, some talking head on the board can't come in and say, well, look, here's something OpenAI can do that Google can't, so go work with them instead. And as long as the CIO, who's probably, to a certain degree in the pocket of his or her current vendors, can say, well, actually, Google's in the game too, and we're already working on this with them, that's really all you need in the context of a boardroom.
Yeah. Yeah, you're obviously, Sally, you understand that much better than I do, but yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
I had something to add real quick.
Mhm.
My mentor told me something very insightful one time. He said humans are emotional first, logical second, and logically, yeah, it's not a big deal what they did. I mean, I understand, but a lot of people felt betrayed. Like when I watched that demo, I thought, wow, like my mind was blown. Oh my God, I can't believe this is like we're in the future. And then when I learned that, well, it wasn't 100%, emotionally, I felt duped, right? And later I understand what they did, but like it's over by then. Like now a lot of people feel like I don't even want to mess with Google Gemini because like they lied to me, and that's the emotional part of being human. Like I feel dumb.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you feel like you got cheated,
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, and that's a factor that Google really maybe didn't consider. I mean, one thing also is there's something I was told too is too many brain cells, right? Like, yeah, you guys are super smart, but you kind of screwed up. Like, you got too many brain cells. You didn't, like it's such a good saying. Like, you use too much logic and not enough emotion,
Yeah.
and you really screw this up. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe people will forget about it.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, probably nobody else will be doing that real quick. Real soon. So we saw that other thing. So I'm just going to move us on from here and go back to the slides if that's okay with everybody. So I guess that explains the controversial part. I think that was a great discussion to get everybody's viewpoints out there, and it is what it is. It's out there. I was watching. We used to on this group watch Yannick Kilcher a lot, and his last video, was kind of bizarre for two reasons. One, he didn't have sunglasses on. The dude really has eyes. Um, and two, he just ripped into this. I think he must have you know, he he was really upset, quite upset about it. So that was kind of interesting too. But it is what it is, and you can't unsee it, right? So we can only deal with it then. All right, so I think that's good enough for that little demo thing and the controversy. And then let's take a look at just a few more things, then we can play with it. Okay, in fact, right now, I do have a little demo of just some stuff I've been playing with here. And we can play with it, and see what we like. It does show multimodal in action, such as it is. Remember, they're doing pixels with the image, and we're restricted right now just to images. So we'll be just looking at some images. This is with Gemini and the Bard interface. Google has been very careful to say, to essentially separate Gemini, the model, from Bard, the user interface, because, Gemini, the model, is going to be called from APIs. It's going to be baked into a number of their products, blah, blah, blah. It's an engine for them that is going to sit underneath a lot of their technology. And Bard is one of the many interfaces that we use. We have this uses have also GPT-4 and ChatGPT, because like I said, we're going to do a little multimodal stuff, and I wanted to see what their multimodal did in addition. Okay, let me then shut this down and get my browser back up. Oh, I guess, yeah. Oh, dang it. There's a tab under here. Anybody know how I move this silly thing? Did I just drag it around? Oh, yeah, okay. All right. So here's some things I played with here. And let's just do this in real time here. So this is Bard interface and everything. And I'm just going to go pick up, I have all these images here lying around I've been playing with. So let's do this. I'll do this for Sully. What is this? And
What is that?
Are its main competitors? It'll come up in a second. So
Kind of a giveaway, isn't it, with the sign in the back?
It's a little bit of a
It has no competitors.
It has no competitors. You're biased. Interestingly, though, it did figure out that was a Rivian R1T. Didn't get the R1S or anything like that. How do you like yours, by the way, Sally? You like it?
Well, I don't have an R1T. I have an R1S. So, yeah.
Oh, you have an R1S. Okay. Okay.
But I love
R1.
it. It's fun.
Okay, good. Glad you're satisfied.
I actually have a question.
You have
I
an
know-
R1T? No. Go ahead, David.
I know Gemini is not available in all BART interfaces. Some of them are still using Palm 2. How are you so sure that this is, for example, Gemini and no Palm 2? Because in my country, Palm 2 is still the default. You have to do some little tricky to get to work Gemini.
Well, I was told this was Palm 2 by my friends over at Google, so I'm going to assume they were. I'm taking that at face value. So I did not do any sort of testing to verify that.
I drop out a link in the chat that actually takes to Google AI Studio, where you can try Gemini Pro,
makers.
Gemini
Yeah.
Vision.
Oh, okay.
It's free for 1 month
Uh-huh.
while they are testing it. I use it to test Gemini because BART is like a little bit restrictive. This is more for developers, and you can do even some benchmarks with it.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do a few of these, and then maybe we'll take a look at that. How's that go? Okay, so, and then it did, in addition to putting out the nice picture and figuring out by looking at the pixels and the big sign that said Rivian right there. But it did figure out it was an R1T, the truck, not the S, which you have, Sully. And it goes into that. And I'm assuming the specs are about right. So anyway, we'll assume that this is that, and it went through its competitors and all that good stuff.
It's all within a stone's throw if it's not right. So
okay.
the only thing that's wrong about it is the starting price of the F-150.
What does it say the F-150 starts at?
F-150 started at $80,000.
Yeah. Is this like a Tesla, the Tesla real base model?
That was the MSRP. That's right. It's the MSRP of the baseline model that they never released and probably never will release.
Yes. Eventually Tesla gets around to it, but it just takes them 5 years after they've amortized all the development costs. Things like that. Okay. So that was the R1T we looked at. Let's see what whatever else I do. Oh, I thought this, just from general looks up, why don't we just try a couple more things here? What else do I have? Is the picture. Now, when I ran this, my question was, what would happen if this wasn't on a Google product, but this was on maybe some other product, maybe OpenAI or something like that? It just said, I'm not going to do it. So that just, I thought it didn't want to do it because it was, it was Elon. So let's see here. Where did my, all right, and Rubian. All right, here's one to prove that does work. We'll do the Cybertron. So let's try that. See if it's not reading text, it will have. What is this? And what was it cost? No labels to help it or anything like that. Just going to have to look at pixels. Huh? Not bad. So it did all that. It does look like their data. Go ahead.
I just tested the Gemini Vision with a picture of Elon Musk without Bard, and it worked. It says the person in the picture is Elon Musk. So I guess when you use Bard is not allowed to do that, but with the API you can do it. It's not as restricted as ChatGPT or OpenAI API that cannot do that even with the API.
Interesting. I wonder why they did that. Because it's obviously parsing these images, these car images and things like that, and moving them along. And it did do pretty good even with some other things here. Let me do just one more image and then we can maybe go to Q&A and that sort of thing here. Let's just do. What is this and is it poisonous?
Jerry, I believe that this is exactly what a series of pop culture articles were written about.
Really?
On mushrooms. And so relying on AI to identify edible and non-edible mushrooms is a freaking horrible idea. And what people were doing is they were using ChatGPT to generate SEO content about mushrooms. And some of those articles referred to whether the mushrooms were edible or not. And I don't remember who did this study, but somebody went through and scanned a bunch of them. And of the AI generated articles, a significant portion of them.
Something is definitely wrong in the economy, and that's why they're doing this. Jerome Powell comes out time and time again and says, it would be premature to conclude with confidence that the Fed has raised its benchmark rate high enough to fully defeat inflation. And he's right, actually. Just because the Fed has not been raising interest rates for almost 6 months now, doesn't mean that rate cuts are coming next. It could just mean that this is going to be the new normal of interest rates for a long time.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Are you listening to Republican news there? What was that?
No, I don't know. It was just in the other window in the thing. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's do this here.
You need to ask it, which class is this item? Is it hot dog or not a hot dog?
You have to be a longtime member to understand that joke. But it is a good joke.
It's the only joke.
It's the only joke. Yeah, it is the only joke. The other joke is that I cannot, for the life of me, move a freaking picture to the right place. I hate you. Okay, hang on. So let's try this here. Geez, I can't cut and paste, huh? I think I have to put it in a freaking file. Oh, it's good. You pile of crap. In case you're wondering, yes, I do cuss at my computer all day long. It works. It helps. Oh, here we go. All right. Should I eat this?
Do you know the answer?
Yeah.
The correct answer is I'm an AI and I shouldn't answer questions like this.
And it essentially did just that, Sully.
Good.
So the safety mechanism is working on that. All right. I think that's enough. That's enough screwing around with it. Go ahead.
But these safety mechanisms were on BART. I don't know if it's because of the BART system ROM or is something the model have inside. Because this is more designed to talk with people like a chatbot, but Gemini is not exactly a chatbot, it's a model. So it may behave different when testing without being in BART. Also, BART have access to internet. So when you ask really a new question, it searches the internet so fast. We really don't have the chance to think if it was the model or the answer is generated with augmentation from internet. I did some tests on BART, like asking what is Gemini, what is happening, and it answered so fast. I thought that was on Gemini, but it was today's news. So it's not on the model, it's on the internet.
Well, if nothing else, Gemini has managed to get itself on every news source that we can think of. Anyway. All right. Well, that's kind of all I had kind of set for tonight. What else? Anybody else want to try anything?
Ask it how many words are in your response.
Oh, okay. You mean in this last response, or
just that? Well, you could ask a question. What day is it, and how many words are in your response?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I want to know, Roger, why you want to know this, but
because this is a hard one.
Oh, to get right, you mean?
Yeah, because you kind of need to know the response before you.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
12, is it? Yeah.
30, yeah. That doesn't look right. I don't think there's 34 words in there. So they want to count. Maybe it counts each digit separately, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if that is it. It's off by about 15, I think.
Hmm. Well, then that's.
Oh.
Yeah, it is 15. It's off by 15.
Well, this is kind of fun too. It gives you, this is my topmost essentially. Here's my next, here's my third. It knows the numbers are good. Count is getting worse and worse. That's fun. Anyway, Roger, I've never seen that before. That's a good test.
That's a hard one. How about just
Yeah.
a simple math?
Okay. Let's see if I can do, okay. What is 4 times 10 plus 5? See if it can get a hierarchy going.
Nice.
Geez, it actually did it in correct order. I wonder if I flip the order around. Let me try this. Screw it up. 5 plus 4 times 10. Yeah. All right. Well, that was pretty good. That was impressive. All right. Let's see here. What's this one? Oh, this was the same thing. Oh,
Can it generate images as well?
my understanding is not in this interface. But maybe, David, that's a question for you. Do you know if the interface you're using is capable of generating images?
No, I don't see an option for generating images in this
Okay.
interface. Eh, can you test the link I dropped in the chat? Because it has access to the wall model.
This Maker Suite one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it can go without a registration, just with the Google account. You see
Okay.
there is a safety settings options on the right
Oh.
side. And that's pretty interesting because you can actually control when you want the model to keep this safe or be a little bit more spicy. Something that, for example, GPT-4 cannot do. You have to make the model properly for all ages, to say it that way. And that's
Interesting.
pretty interesting. Actually, this Google AI Studio also supports people identification and is better than BART in working with the whole model. I was testing with Sam Altman and Elon Musk. It actually got that right. Maybe it's better to try the demo, the images from the demo in this suite.
Okay, so just click the image or
Yes,
we have.
but you have to switch the model. In the right side, you're using Gemini Pro. It's Gemini Pro Vision.
Oh, thank you. I was trying to get this to work earlier. Huh. So how do you put a new image? I just drag the image on? Or?
Yes.
Oh, I see. I see. There's an upload button. Okay. What is it on? You know, I spend my day going back and forth between Windows and Macs. It's like, that's just a bad idea. Okay. And you just, where do you enter the prompt then?
Just click, you can write now.
On him?
Write something like, who is the person in
Oh.
this image?
Who is this person? Who is the person? Yeah. And just run, huh? Oh, very good. Cool. So do you normally just type in this interface then here?
Yes, this is not like chat, it's more like generating text.
Hmm. That's interesting. Oh, I see. I see. Oh, I
Yeah.
see. You're just writing a prompt here. So let's see if we do that. Run to get output. I'm adding. Hmm. All right. So if I just copy this, then I can just put it. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. Well, I'm gonna have to play more with this. Have you tried it much, David? Beyond how much time have you spent with it?
Well, I have mainly been using the API, but
Mhm.
this playground, this
Mhm.
is interesting, for example, for testing on people and things that OpenAI models usually don't answer because it answers it. Also,
Mm.
the safety settings are
Mhm.
pretty spicy. If you turn all of them to block few, it will
Mhm.
start going a little bit wild. And
Okay.
I'm like, why they did that?
Uh-huh.
That's something, uh, for example, Google doesn't do. But I think it's for researching or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, and more, maybe, since they're letting you use it for free, maybe I'm sure one of the caveats is if you're using it for free, they get to use whatever you type in as data. So, see how far, what people are really putting in, and maybe there's corner cases they didn't account for and anything like that. So, what are the advanced settings? Oh, output length. Oh, how far you can take that up. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Do that. Huh. That's interesting. That just gave me the code for the safety setting. So this is what you're doing. You're calling Gen AI generative model.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to make it work with Python.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks really straightforward. Just give it your API key so they can bill you. And oh, you can even open it in Colab. Oh, Bob's your uncle. I don't have an API key sitting around here, but if I did. Yeah, so it looks like it does. It actually, so it's installable.
For
That's
everyone
nice.
under 50, Bob's your uncle is a line that means, and there you
Oh yeah,
have it,
sorry.
or boom goes the dynamite.
Sorry, I've dated myself. Sorry, guys. Ah, hmm. Well, so much for running this, and I guess I'd have to do some sort of setup type thing.
I think that notebook is a little bit broken because I tried to run it and I wasn't able to do it.
Mhm. Oh,
But
oh
let's
well.
be fair. Google have a lot more people than OpenAI. So a few people made the model and a lot more people made all the other tools for the model to work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop sharing my screen then, and we can just finish up then. Okay.
I thought you did great, Jerry.
Yeah. Well, thanks. That's it was something I wanted to do, learn more about, and things like that. Just so, because I think that's these things are going to become more and more. Honestly, going back to what I used to write for code and what I'm writing now is just a shrinking fraction of it, because these tools can generate code probably better than I can write realistically, because I don't write code every day.
Hey, I had a question.
Yeah, sure, Brent.
I see a lot of LinkedIn posts about how cool these tools are, but I never have seen a LinkedIn post about what new grads or junior engineers are supposed to do now, or what job descriptions should look like now. For example, some job descriptions have X amount of years doing SQL queries. Like, why? Like, why would you ever want to write another SQL query, So I feel like that's not being addressed. We need to give good advice to the young people coming up. It's like, this is what you should do. This is what you should put on your resume. These are the jobs you should apply for. This is what you should say during an interview. Like, that's not being addressed. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I don't. We should ask Gemini, but write the best resume possible, right?
I think it's also it's an interesting question. I think it's top of mind for quite a few people that have recently graduated or soon to be graduated. But I also feel like there's kind of often there's a hype cycle in technology, and it seems really big, and there's a lot of things that don't change for a long, long time. And I don't know in this case, how much that's true. My gut is that a lot of jobs aren't going to change overnight. But I don't know, it could be different. Sally, do you have a different perspective? Do you think everything changes overnight, or does it? There's a hot area that's changing rapidly, and most of the market isn't changing that quickly.
I think everything will change quickly a little bit, but a few things will change a lot. Like Abraham's specific example about SQL queries, I guarantee you that if there are 20 million people today in the United States whose job involves writing SQL query, there will still be 17.5 million people doing that in 5 years.
Yeah.
And
how? Why?
I mean, part of it is that I know what Bob's your uncle means. And so I'm just old, and I've seen things that have kind of gone through a couple times. I know it doesn't make sense. I know that you don't agree, but like, you would be blown away at the hourly rate you get for writing Fortran right now.
Right.
Or COBOL. You'd be blown away by how many banks still hire people to code in COBOL. You'd be blown away that most of the ATM machines that you use are still running Windows 95 on the back. But it's just real, right? I mean, IBM's revenue until 8 years ago, IBM's profit until 8 years ago was still dominated by AS400.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I have 2 little brothers, and the reason this topic is very important to me is I told my little brother, who's 14 years old, I said, you need to start using ChatGPT today. And don't use it to cheat, but this is your future. You're going to be, by the time you're my age, you're going to be interfacing with an AGI. And like, what are we telling our young people now, especially that are graduating this winter? What are you supposed to do?
Mostly that first message, which is don't cheat.
Right, don't cheat.
I went to this school and I talked to him about it. And the number one interaction these kids are having with AGIs or GIs or AIs is cheating.
I know,
like
but
across the board.
This is a tool they need to use. Like if you don't use these tools, I feel like you're going to get smoked. You're going to be left far behind. So that's
I
one
think
thing
that's
I
a
wish
different
there
question,
was.
right? Like getting smoked and getting left far behind is not a question for humanity, right? It's a relative question. If you're not getting smoked, you're smoking someone else, right? I mean, like just here comes my Republican side too, right? I mean, like at the end of the day, the pie is so big, and there's only so many people that are going to be kicking the people at the bottom of the pie. And so the question about like how does this affect humanity is very different from how do you help your brother not be in the 90% of humanity that's getting their butts kicked.
Yeah, you know, I told my little brother, you think your life's gonna be easy now because you have these AI tools? No, it's gonna be hyper competitive, and that's why you should learn this stuff.
I agree. Because I mean,
but he's just a
AIs
little
probably aren't
kid.
going to pay us as well as human bosses, and so we're probably going to have to compete for the few jobs they give us.
No, it's going to be really nuts. It's going to be strange. Like the next generation is going to be so much better than this generation. Like you know, if they know how to use the tools, but that means the competition is going to be so you know, it's going to be in the stratosphere.
I mean, I agree with you. Your comment about using it though, like it's like when Jerry and Roger and I went to school. If you used a calculator in math, you were cheating, right? No, seriously, right? Like that.
No, yeah.
That's crazy.
In trouble. And it wasn't until I got to kind of the first year of college, last year of high school, where we started really talking about technology as a tool that will be ever present, not some cheat to kind of get ahead. And so
exactly.
I think you're right in that regard for sure.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as it's a productivity tool. It's going to make whoever's using it a lot more productive, which could mean that, you know, there's fewer people doing the same amount of work, but I think more likely it's going to be the same people doing a lot more, being a lot more productive. And the trick is to make sure that you're one of the ones that's leveraging this and you are highly productive and not being left behind.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, I go back to the fact that there used to be 500, 600,000 telephone operators in the United States alone. Those people don't have a job. That's something a machine does right now, right? You don't call somebody up and say, connect me to Roger or something like that, right? It's electronic switching. Put them in there.
That's such a good point. I have 2 little brothers and 2 little sisters, and both of my sisters are my age, around in their mid-30s, and they don't use ChatGPT, and I'm just like, why? It's like not using a calculator. Like, I'm really worried about them. Like, don't get left behind, you know?
Yeah. Well, technology always moves forward, right? So if you're not up on it, you're gonna, you can get run over. Right? You could be road. They used to call it the information highway. You could be roadkill on the information highway. That's something.
Those are the kind of posts I wish I would see more often on LinkedIn, because everybody's posting about like, look what I did on Gemini, and which is good, but like, okay, wow, this is crazy. Like these tools are amazing. Like, what do we do now? I don't see enough of those. Anyway, I'm sorry to get on my soapbox.
It's okay. All right.
Thank you.
Are we meeting next week, or is this the last one for the year, and then we'll pick up next year?
I think, given the time frame, this should be the last one for the year, Dave.
Yeah, because I think the next one would be the 21st, which would be right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, people are gonna be traveling, things like that.
So
are we going to start up